Welcome to Roseflower Radio, the show that goes behind the scenes of your favorite independent artists and creatives. I'm your co-host, Micah Wilson.
And I'm your co-host, Finlay Matthias. With us today on a very special episode of Roseflower Radio, we have not an artist, but a fellow creator and fellow podcaster in Henry from InTheQueue. And we're going to be talking about, music podcasting, independent music, independent musicianship, I should say, and so much more. Henry, how are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Of course, Henry, you are, I think we mentioned beforehand, you are our first Zoom podcast.
We're going virtual.
Yeah, first time. Roseflower goes virtual for the first time. Yeah, Henry's joining us from Florida, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, from Tampa, Florida. So, this is cool to be talking to you guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate, being the first.
And we appreciate you taking the time. So, Henry runs the InTheQueue podcast and community, you could call it.
Yeah, I say so as well. Just like, supporting musicians. It's just all for the fun of like putting other people on.
Exactly.
Point, so.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like, where did that idea come from? Are you a musician yourself and you felt like someone had to do it, so you had to? Or like, where did just the idea for the InTheQueue podcast and community kind of come from?
Yeah, it definitely came from the beginnings of pandemic times, and everyone's inside. Like, what do you do when you have nothing to do? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And to like understand the why, I definitely had to like talk about how InTheQueue even started in the first place. Is like I was just deciding like I need to be doing something creative, and I needed a creative outlet. And those times of like just being at home and not doing anything. And Spotify had just come out with this. I got an email from an Anchor promotional email. Spotify had just come out with this feature where you could play artist music in the podcast. So I got that, and my first idea was to just start reaching out to musicians and seeing if I could interview them and then play their music in the episode. And InTheQueue was just the obvious name for it.
Yeah.
And then through like trying, like putting yourself out there and like trying something new, like found a hobby and like decided like this is what I want to continue to pursue, and it's turned into what it is today. Just basically trying to create content around independent musicians.
Yeah. So were you already in the music industry? Were you already working with musicians, anything like that before InTheQueue, or you just hopped in?
Yeah, not at all. This is actually like I just got my 9-to-5, and this is what I do for fun. So wasn't working in the music industry, just been like, the friend that I love to get the aux and like share what I'm listening to.
Yeah.
And when you just like, when I had that moment to like think like, what do I really like to do in life? And like, what do you want to create content around? It's just like all the music that I'm finding, like I would be doing it anyways, if it weren't for building a community of people, like-minded people. So.
Yeah, and I think that's a very similar kind of story to how we started here. We originally it was myself and Logan, and over the pandemic we were sitting around. We met in music school about 6 months before the pandemic. Everything shut down, school closed, studios closed. We had nothing to do,
right?
And we kind of were like, well, let's make something to do then. If no one's gonna give us work, let's make work. Let's make something of ourselves during this time where a lot of things are going down. Let's try and be something that's building up,
Definitely. And it was only when I started posting on TikTok that like the the social media behind the scenes, like the interest graph versus your friends, like I have not found more like-minded people or like, people interested in the same thing than creating on TikTok and like, building real connections with people. It's been really cool to see. Just like the internet is wild. So
yeah, have you had a moment where like you got to meet an artist or talk to an artist who you like genuinely before InTheQueue, before any of that, you listen to them, or an artist whose music you genuinely love, and then they came on the show, and like, have you had any moments like that where you were a genuine fan of someone and they ended up on the show?
Yeah, definitely. And it was really cool because honestly, I was, when you dive deep into like TikTok music and like all these different people just posting like insane music, and they could have like a very small following, but you already see like the vision of them growing. Like Jonah Roy for me was somebody that like I just found his music. I ended up talking to randomly a buddy of his from St. Louis, who was like one of the first few people to be a part of InTheQueue, and he introduced me. And then Jonah ended up reaching out to me to be on an episode of InTheQueue, like to have someone that whose music that you like fuck with like hard, and they reached out to you to be a part of something that you're doing for fun, like that. That was pretty cool. So, and then at that point, you got like a fan for life.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was gonna say. That's what's really cool is I feel like you can weirdly establish, like even in those little, like a lot of the times those small moments where you don't really know the person that well, but like those little moments can impact like a huge, like a long-term thing, like a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but a fan, like you said, and someone that will, continue to look to your music and or continue to look to the content that you create and all that.
Right.
Which I think is really cool. My question for you, were you always like someone like finding new music and like putting your friends on new music? Was this like something that kind of always was just a part of your character? Or was that something that kind of slowly picked up over time as you were doing, InTheQueue and you were starting to like curate, the whole business and everything around it?
Yeah. No, that's definitely like a good point, because it definitely was something that I can look back now and think of times where like friends are like, oh, you have a really cool taste in music. I'd be like, oh, I like that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I should like lean into that.
Yeah, that's a true compliment right there.
And so yeah, like definitely has been a thing like throughout my life, and then to just find like a project that I wanted to pursue long term, like around that kind of idea, it's been really cool to see like see what happens when you put some stuff out in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like we had a moment where like I know it was more of like a me moment, and then these guys just watched me freak out when it happened. But we had an artist, Amy Vant, who myself and my roommate genuinely loved. Like we listened to her music, like all of that stuff, and then we put out a TikTok when we just moved into the set, and we were looking for people to come on the new season of the show. And in the back, we have a whiteboard over here. And on the whiteboard, we had Amy Vant, like on the whiteboard as someone that we like, but in our minds at that point, she was way above.
Like unachievable.
Yeah, that was an unachievable goal. One morning, I wake up to a DM from her manager, being like, hey, Amy saw your TikToks. She wants to know if she can come down. And I just like was losing my mind. I like sent a screenshot to our group chat. I was like, no way, oh my God. And I remember, I know it was a me moment more than an everyone moment, because Micah goes, who's that again? But
wait, what are you talking about? It's Amy, bro.
Yeah, it's like
it's Amy, man. What do you mean?
Yeah.
But it was cool because she was also super down to earth and like super awesome too. She wasn't like, it was like really cool because same sort of thing. Like you look at some of, like we've had other artists and stuff like who we're always like, we hold on a pedestal before we start to like work with them, and then we do, and they're just like awesome people. And I think it's really cool to like figure out the human side of the people who make content and the people who make music or all that stuff. It's really cool. So it was a cool experience to hang out with her and all that. So
what we're doing, like, as well as like when you think about the landscape of the music industry right now,
mm-hmm.
and like how little small pockets of the internet are people just like recommending music and putting on artists and creating careers for people or just attention. So like we need them just as much as they need like these little communities of people who are looking for new music to listen to.
That's a good point.
Especially in a time where like independent music doesn't get that much support. Like the labels aren't looking for small people who haven't been discovered yet anymore. The labels are looking for people with hundreds of thousands of streams, millions of followers.
Because it's so easy to do it yourself now.
Because it'll be easier. Or it'll be easier for them to
because they already
pick
have
it up and throw it up. No one's looking for the people at the bottom anymore or on their way up. No one's helping them. No one's investing in them, either like literally or like socially, emotionally in that way.
And if it is, it's gonna be an email from like a bot that's saying, "Hey, put your song on this playlist."
Dude, Columbia has reached out to me a couple times, and I'm pretty excited for sure.
Oh yeah,
have you guys gotten those like random, terrible capitalized and then not capitalized spelling like emails from.
Oh,
From
you're saying
both-
Capital
from
has hit you
Capital.
up? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand. At first, I was like, whoa, like, what do you mean,
I was like,
bro?
yo, that's cool. No, I've definitely got those.
No, like oh, you give us $10,000 and we recommend that we'll hook it up. We'll definitely make it happen for you. We'll
Yeah.
make it big.
Yeah. All right, sure.
No, not joke. Actually, this is a cool. Literally yesterday, I saw a promoted Instagram story that said, "I am managing." It was just like Instagram story text on a black background, and it was this guy, and he was like, "I am managing artists, $100 to get on my management roster. Swipe up to apply." And I was like, "Oh yeah, that's legit. That is 100. That is real and good for your career."
Let me sell you real quick.
Yeah, like it's so commonplace now to like almost like prey on or like make a career out of not really playing the rules properly. You know?
Are you guys familiar with? Have you heard that story about Perry Mason and his song "Old Man"?
No.
No.
Do you know what happened there? So I guess it's again just another example of a manager signing a kid who's looking to make it, and like not even talking to them until one song blows up, and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm taking my percentage of royalties of everything. Now that you've blown up, I'm here to like you signed this contract. And then like this guy took the song down as it crossed 100,000 streams in like I think maybe 2 weeks. In fact, I don't know exactly how long, but and then so this song is like picking up steam, and all of a sudden he jumps into the scene to like pick up his percentage of things. So I think exactly, yeah. But it's just like with those types of people, like vultures in the music industry.
True.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Vultures is a good word.
I think it's good to like these little communities across the internet are just coming up out of nowhere, putting on music and showcasing musicians. So
yeah,
For
for
sure.
and
sure.
I've loved seeing your like progression of things as well, like to see where you guys are building the studio and the like quality of videos
We're trying.
as well that you're putting
Yeah,
out. Like
thank you, man. Yeah.
I definitely see the vision and like you guys are building the structure for something really
Yeah,
cool.
to let you in behind the scenes. I don't know if you could tell, or you might be able to tell on the wider zoom. Like we're in a garage right now. You might be able to know
cool.
there's no insulation. It's just bare walls.
It either gets really hot in here or really cold and no in between.
Yeah, notice how we're both wearing thick hoodies and long trousers. Because over the summer we were sweating. We had massive AC units. And now in the winter, we're bundling up, and we had to bring in a heater last week for a shoot that we did. Yeah, so I mean,
I have a question real quick. So like for you, you're in Florida, and I've never been to Florida. I know it's humid and I know it's hot. But what's the music scene like in Florida? Or is that a reason why you're going on Zoom and you're reaching out to people not really in Florida? Is there a scene, and like how is it, and what does it look like,
Yeah, definitely. There is like I think like this Tampa Ybor scene is like indie music, it seems like.
okay, yeah.
Is a big thing. Like these and also my sister went to University of Florida in Gainesville, so like I know a lot about the Gainesville indie music scene and like these just different pockets of Florida. I think like Jacksonville up north, and then Miami, of course, is its own thing. Like I feel like it's a beast that I like am not ready to. I'm okay not being close to Miami.
Yeah, right.
But there's these bands that you see like they just they take the circuit around these big major cities in Florida. So I think Rona, if I were to shout out a band from Tampa in the music scene, it's Rona.
RONA?
Is the band ROHNA.
ROHNA. What type of music do they make?
So it's like indie rock kind of music.
For sure.
But they're doing something really cool. They're I think he's like the bassist, or I think his name is Andres, is putting on like emo night, but indie night across
that's cool.
Florida. And I think they just did like an East Coast up north tour as well. So it's like cool to see stuff like that kind of blossom from the Tampa scene.
Yeah, and it's really, I think it's really interesting that in this day and age where artists, like, if you're touring, you're fairly by most people's standards. If your band is touring, you're fairly successful.
Mm-hmm.
But even so, the artists they're creating their own spaces. Like there's clearly a demand in today's music industry for things like emo night, indie night. Like smaller, like you keep saying, like pockets of creativity and community in in an industry that, while it's quite big, I feel like otherwise is kind of isolated in a way.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I mean, and that's the thing too, is also like, like money is where money is made is in live music, is in big events like that. And it's because that's where you can just take like all these fans or whatever, boom, put them in front of their favorite artist or a banana or whatever, and they can really just go to town. But it's just crazy because I never knew that, and I never realized that how much behind the work, like you need like 1,000 people to run a show, and everyone has to be working full time and doing all this stuff. I had an experience trying to like start my own like sort of thing separate from Roseflower. It was like me in like high school. I thought it was like, I could totally do the show and like and like a totally same sort of thing. Fell through because that was like my first realization of like, like there's so many things that I don't understand, about like live music or anything. But for like InTheQueue, where do you see are you going to live events? Is that something that you see in your future? What's the future for InTheQueue?
I think being a part of like, combining communities with other people would be interesting to throw live events, like collaborated somethings, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely thought about it, but like we were just saying, like the, what it takes behind the scenes is a lot for one individual to take on. So I think something that like I've been I want to do in this whole like rebrand or like figuring out what InTheQueue is to like bring people in to the project and not have it just be myself, because that's one of those things when you're doing it all by yourself, you're driving the whole thing. So
and it's a lot of work
to take on, I'm sure.
Yeah, even just just a single podcast is, oh my god, it is way more work than I thought it was before we got into doing podcasting and that type of thing.
Right.
But I feel like someone's got to do it, because like we just said, there is a demand now in this industry where people, aren't really like there's pockets, like you're saying, like merging. You got to merge the communities because there are pockets of community like us, like you guys, like small little podcast communities, producer groups, artist groups, writing groups, and they're all kind of pocketed. And I think it's really important, to merge the communities and try and like get everyone together, supporting each other. Because as independent artists, no one's gonna really support independent artists but independent artists until you're not an independent artist anymore, and then everyone loves you, Right. But it's that moment where no one's like bothered, no one's gonna really push you or like support until you've made something of yourself.
Well, it's that, and then also you knock down one domino, many will come after that. Yeah. But a lot of the times, I think artists and like just content creators in general can get very self-destructive and upset when they're knocking down one domino and they're like waiting for the other one to fall, and they're like,
why did it happen?
Why isn't it happening? When you have to really trust the long game. And that's for a lot of things. So like, not even just artistry, not even just making music, but also for doing a podcast.
Yeah.
Also for doing music videos, and also for doing all these other things like live streams and stuff too. It's a process. And what I've realized is if you can enjoy the process and enjoy the moment as you're going, it's going to be way more fun than stressing and being like, man, I need to be here and here and here. It's like, well, we're doing this and it's fun and I'm having a great time. And, like maybe this specific thing isn't where it needs to be, but in due time, it'll fix itself. Or, if you need to adjust it. But I think having that peace of mind and that ideology thrown into like whatever you end up doing takes off.
I agree. And I think something I've been struggling with is like being the personality behind InTheQueue as well. Like, I'm not sure if that's what I want to be doing. long, like I consistently, like, and then I find myself like stuck in, like, I've only been doing this project for like consistently since March of this year. So, like, that's not that long of time when you like zoom out and take a look as well. So, like, trying to figure out what InTheQueue is and like what I want it to be long term. Like, that's where I'm kind of at right now. I like feel like I'm starting from zero again a little bit.
Yeah, I know that you recently like got rid of a lot of posts and stuff on IG, and you kind of started scratch. Was there a reason for that, or was that just kind of a you know what, screw it, delete everything, and like, or what is there like method behind the madness?
Yeah, I kind of regret deleting that stuff, to be honest.
Did you archive it?
I didn't archive it. I know, but it's okay. Like, honestly, because I think I got to a point where it's like, oh, I'm ending the podcast. I think that was where it started.
Wow.
Where I was like, I'm going to change the project to like mainly be just sharing music. And then that's where like the idea of bringing other people on. Like, I do think like it's interesting to have a podcast where you're like listening to these musicians' stories, and everyone has all these different perspectives and why they do what they do, and that's the whole point of the project in the first place. But I found myself like not like enjoying being the interviewer on the other side of it anymore. Yeah, just so like I like enjoy like focusing more on like the sharing music part of it, and then that's where like bringing other people into the project comes from. It's like the people who do enjoy that kind of thing, and like bring other people on to like grow it more.
Yeah. So like, do you see yourself maybe as almost like a curator as opposed to like a host in that aspect? You know?
Maybe so. Yeah. I'm also intrigued by like building things, like where people can invest in these independent musicians and like just building projects around giving back to musicians and taking a step back from the social media part of it.
Yeah.
But it's like all included, it's all a part of.
For sure.
You can't make something like, if you're not like having 6 TikToks with it or something,
Yeah.
It's
Right.
weird that content's the game now, and that's just what you have to end up playing. But it's interesting you say that. I feel like that there are a lot of people that can resonate with that it's like, man, I've been doing this. I don't know where I stand in this, but I like doing this, and but like, I think the advice that I would give, not that I have like the hierarchy to like,
I would appreciate.
Well, what I would just say is like, enjoy the moment and what you're doing right now. And in the little things, like the things that you like, stick with those. The things that you maybe dislike, either train yourself to like go at it in a way where you start to be like, oh, I actually like this. Like, this is something that I enjoy. But definitely I feel like you want to be well-rounded in a bunch of different aspects. But also find the ones that are rooted in you and what Henry considers to be character, and then like those things you can branch off of that, and then whatever you make, whether that's a podcast, or just a Spotify, or you just make Spotify playlists or something, like whatever that is, it's gonna,
curator,
yeah.
Yeah.
I dumbed it down, but you know what I'm saying. It's just like all of a sudden, then shifts to cultivate what you are making, regardless of what it is rooted in truth and rooted in what you believe. And it's really rooted in, you. And then once that's like locked in place, once you share that, then it's a really more amazing thing than something that has a lot of like bumps in the road. You know what I'm saying?
And I think like I keep going back to like bringing, or it's all about like being around like-minded people and like finding those people.
100%.
And maybe it's not throwing concerts, but like building communities around like going to concerts.
Yeah.
And finding like like-minded people who are interested in, finding other people.
Yeah. I mean, like to go off what Micah was saying, like, I don't even know if Micah knows this, but I never saw myself in front of the Roseflower cameras on the Roseflower like podcast in front of everything. I always saw myself until maybe 2 years ago, like maybe like as we met Micah or like as Micah came in, I never saw myself as someone who would be in front of cameras, like on this side of the microphone, like in front of the lights. Because I didn't think that was me, because myself with somebody talking, it wasn't appealing to me. It wasn't something that I was like, it wasn't what I saw, you know? And then we met Micah, and Micah started coming down. He came to some of our music video shoots. He was spending more time around us, not only as in like a professional Roseflower setting, but as a friend. You know, we became really close. Micah showed me what he used to do on his previous podcast, and that's when I kind of realized that I don't want to be one dude interviewing somebody. I want to be part of a group having a conversation.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
And it was kind of that moment where Logan and I, we thought about, it would be cool to do a podcast and have some original content. But we were both like, well, I don't really want to do it. You know? And then we met Micah, and Micah
And I was like, I'll do it.
And well, not even that. He had all these ideas. He knew, like, he had experience. He knew what he was doing. And we were like, this is somebody.
Well, you're hyping me up too, but I don't know why this is turning into that.
But I'm interested to hear like the beginnings of you guys too. So that you had your own podcast already and then joined.
Yeah, so
Roseflower.
Very similar to your situation. Prior to this, I probably joined Roseflower like a year in.
Yeah,
or so.
Just under a year. It was like November when we started the previous January. It was just under a year.
So but prior to that, I lived in Colorado, and I had this podcast called Ready, Set, Flow. And the whole idea of that was, it was just me and my way less serious. It was honestly what it was something just to get me out of bed every day, because with COVID and with all these other things, I felt.
Yep, I know it well.
Yeah, I know that everyone does. I don't even have to finish that sentence. Everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But, I just felt like in my bed, and I was like, I'm not doing anything. And, as two white straight dudes always do, we're like, yo, we should start a podcast, And then we ended up going into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what blossomed from that, which was really cool, was, there were a lot of things in my life that weren't working out in that moment. And because of this podcast, we just were naturally talking, and all we were doing is just interviewing our friends. Like literally just like college kids being like, what up, dude? Like, I saw you last night, like take that shot. That was crazy, bro. Like, oh my, and then like what came from that was actually a really cool community of all these people that were like involved in it. And then like people were like sharing it, and it became something where it was like kind of an inside joke with everyone. But at the same time, like everyone knew, and it was like a really cool thing. Obviously, we didn't take it to a business level. And then when I moved out here, I was like, yo, I love that. How can we turn that into something else? And then met Finlay, and he had this business side, and I had this side, and I'm like, what if, what if we just make a baby right now, in a not that sort of way, but, and what blossomed from that, pun intended, was the Roseflower Radio. And that's where I think we originally started. I don't have to say everything.
No, I mean, it was your part of the story.
Okay, I mean, I'm offering it for you to chime in as my other co-host that we built upon so extravagantly, and now.
Well, I don't know where you were going.
But yeah, so with that being said, that's where this came to be, and I've realized more and more that enjoying the process is the best part of it, and learning more about this dude, even live, even when we're recording or talking to an artist, and I'm like, wait, really? And then like learning something about him or learning something about artists and stuff, and getting to build that community again, except this time not just with my friends sitting around in my basement as we're just joking around. It's been really cool, and that's what's been like a really big hype for me. So that's where I think we came to be.
Yeah, the original Roseflower community before we had fans or anything was just us. We were each other's community for a while, and then when we started doing like the live streams was kind of where it changed a little bit, because we went from we post podcasts and stuff, and I'm sure that like nobody outside of our friends like really was invested in what we were doing at that point, and then the live streams came along. And you know what? Also, Micah was doing the live stream. Micah was streaming himself, and I joined Micah on a stream. He was like, "Hey, just come on my Twitch and listen to music is what I do sometimes. It's good fun." We did that, and I saw the way that Micah was able to interact and talk with his fans and the people in chat and the people who were just like, they were scrolling Twitch, they saw the title and they clicked on it, and there was like that instant, "Hey man, I've never seen your name before in chat. How you doing? Like, how's your day been?"
Right.
And it was that ability to instantly make a connection. You're not waiting for someone to comment on something. You're not waiting for a message to come back. It's instantaneous.
You see some like that number go up by 1 on viewer, and you're like, "Oh, there's someone here. Hi,"
Yeah, and within
Right.
weeks, we went from starting the Discord to hitting 100 people in the Discord in literally weeks.
Yeah.
And now we're coming up on, that was only about 3 weeks ago. Now we're coming up on 130 people now. Like, it's really
crazy. Those are real numbers, the real people behind those numbers, too.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And like I bet it's
Yeah.
the same for you. You go into Anchor and you look and you're like, "Whoa, wait, why are the people?
Right.
Why are these numbers like that?"
How did you find this?
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a mistake. Like,
I deleted all my Instagram photos. There's no way that you could have seen. Just kidding.
No, I mean, so I guess on that note, like, yeah, you changed the logo, got rid of the majority of or actually all of the Instagram content you had.
Yeah.
Do you know what's next, or are you still kind of?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like what I'm interested in is something that I don't think is like really gaining a lot of attention right now. Is like building music in blockchain technology.
Oh,
That's what I'm interested in.
That's awesome.
So when I'm talking about like in people investing in these musicians, like that's kind of where I see the future of InTheQueue.
Awesome.
To be honest,
how do you see that working? Where do you see that going? Kind of like, forget the realities for a second. In your mind, when you close your eyes and you're like, this is how it's going to happen. How do you see that kind of developing over like the next few years, maybe?
Yeah, well, the concept and like what I'm working on right now is building a website where these musicians basically like IPO or create like a coin for themselves, and then there's just only a certain amount of these coins, and then people, it's like buying a stock. Would you invest in this musician? So the people like cash out or hold on to these tokens as a musician's career progresses, and like, do you really believe in this musician to invest in them? Do you believe in them enough to invest? So that's kind of the concept right now. Like that's what excites me. And so what
Yeah.
So is it like a stock market for like individual like artists and like musicians and stuff?
Yeah, it literally is like not touching a musician's royalties or publishing or like anything, masters, anything like that. Like just a place for the music, like the artists to own shares of their own stock and like have their
That's cool.
fans invest in them. So
That's a really that's the other thing that's like really blowing my mind right now is things like that. Like, we're at a point now, there's like that quote that's like, born too early to discover the stars, born too late to discover the stars, born too early to explore them. But what we do have is kind of this incredible growth of technology right now that not everyone understands. I couldn't tell you that much personally.
Right. And I think the masses of people just don't know enough about it right now. It's a very small community.
Yeah, but it's people like you building these communities and trying, like, I'm going to be the guy who figures this out and makes a community, makes a space for everyone else. Like, with all of this new technology and bringing it into the music industry and kind of being like, okay, this new technology exists. How do I make it for musicians?
Yeah.
How do I make this something that musicians can use?
Independent musicians.
Specifically.
Exactly.
To grow.
And that's the,
no
I feel like
no
that's,
more need to.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing about that is that's like, just that idea as a general is like the total like proof in the pudding that you can look to someone and be like, oh, I knew her before she was famous. Like you could just say like
literally.
it's you like I have the receipts. Like this is when I invested and this is when she did this and this is when they did this or whatever. And now their career's taken off.
Do you have like a name for it yet? Anything like that? Are you that far along?
So I want to just call it InTheQueue is the idea. So that's kind of stuff that's exciting me these days. And like when I'm talking about take a step back from being like the personality of it all and like building a platform for other people. Like there's enough people, like there's enough talking heads out there doing the thing. So if I could like find a way to do something a little bit different that stands out, like even if it's not popular right now, I think I'm interested in, the building blocks of something.
And I mean, worst case, I think people who have the drive and the want to first make a podcast and then not want it, and then do something so cutting edge and forward like that, even if that doesn't fail, clearly as a human being, and this is honestly kind of what you're saying, you shouldn't be, as a human being, I would invest in you.
That's what I was literally about to say. I was like,
as a human being, like, I believe there are two types of investment that you can make in your life. You can invest in ideas, or you can invest in people. Like you can be like, I think your idea is amazing. I want to invest in that idea, because you've got an amazing product, something like that. Or you can be like, I don't necessarily understand what you're doing, but I can see you and see that you are a driven, talented, uncompromising person who's going to get what they believe they deserve and get what they want. And I want to invest in that. And not only is that kind of what you're saying here, like you can invest in musicians through your service, but I would say somebody who has ideas like that, is somebody who I would say is the person you would want to invest in and like put your money on and be like, that's gonna.
The joke I was literally about to say was I was gonna be like, well, funny you say that because here at Roseflower, we actually are doing the exact same thing, except we're doing it for guys who are creating this thing for like, artists to take on. And we're going to give one Roseflower coin to Henry from InTheQueue. And therefore...
One Roseflower coin. I think that's all I need, man. That's awesome.
So, there's only one. It's one of one, And we have passed it on to you virtually. Sent it via WeTransfer.
No, that's really kind of you to say, man. Like, it means a lot. Especially, like, you're just someone trying to figure it out along the way.
Yeah.
Just like you guys. So
because as somebody who totally understands, kind of being like, okay, I've built this. Now what?
Yeah.
I can fully, but to be continuing to push, because it is easy. I'm not gonna lie, there have been times where like I've had projects through the roof, and I've just been like, what am I doing right now?
Yeah.
And like every other college student I know is out partying. They get home from class and they relax. They don't get home from class, boot up their computer and start a 6-hour editing session.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Literally.
I'm just like, why have I decided to put myself in this position? But then I realize that it's things like that. People like you, people like independent, like other independent artists we've had on this show. Like, there's a reason that we do that, and it's because of the people, and like the communities, as we keep coming back to the communities that we can build and merge through doing, podcasts, being in this space,
Yeah. You're talking about the why. Like, why do you do what you do?
Exactly, yeah.
And if like at the end of the day, like throughout this project or like trying different things, what I've learned is I just like helping other people live. Or I would just want to be in a place where I can help other people live off of their art and like the thing that they love to do. If that's like what my purpose is, or like my why, is just be in a place that can let other people showcase what they do.
That seems very selfless. Like
I was literally gonna say,
Is that are you just a loving guy? Are you like the Mother Teresa of Florida?
I'm not gonna say no.
Well, would Mother Teresa say no?
No.
No, I mean, like, that's just what I want to, if that's what I could be known for, is like helping other people accomplish their goals, like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
That's so dope.
Yeah. And I think that is like a really, really awesome place to call it, to draw the line there. This has been an amazing conversation with you, Henry. I know we've said it many times
thank you guys.
Throughout the show already. But, normally we say this camera, do what you want. But your camera, tell the people, where can they find you? What can they expect? Website, Instagram. Where can they find more Henry and more InTheQueue?
Yeah, TikTok is definitely the most active place I'm at right now. So InTheQueue on TikTok. And then, find me anywhere else on the internet and go check out some more Roseflower records as well.
Hey, you stop it.
Yeah, and on that note, Micah, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at
Shoelace Music.
Yeah, I'm dropping a song actually, and I bet that by the time this is out, the song might be out. So if it is Roses,
if it is, Micah will put the right here. Micah will put it right there.
there it is. Look at it.
Whoa, that's really cool cover art, Micah. Whoa.
Thanks, did it myself in Canva. But yeah, really excited for that. If that is out, if not, then just it should be. Next couple days.
Soon.
So tap in. And Finlay, where can everyone find you?
You can find me on Instagram at Finlay did it, because who did it?
Finlay did it.
And that's it. I don't have any other socials publicly. Or privately, I should say.
I beg to differ.
You can find Roseflower Records at Roseflower Records on Instagram, at Roseflower Records on TikTok, at Roseflower Records on Twitter, because they didn't give us Roseflower. They said Roseflower was too long. Not that I think Twitter, you know what? Twitter will be gone by the time this comes out. We don't need to include the Twitter at in
it's
here.
a dumpster fire. It's been
yeah,
fun to
they'll
watch.
be bankrupt by the time we finish this episode. They'll be bankrupt. You can find us also at www.roseflowerrecords.com. You can email me, Micah, or Logan, Finlay, Micah, or Logan at roseflowerrecords.com. If you want to talk to us, send us your music, get in direct contact with us. Feel free to always reach out. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll see you in a couple weeks on the next episode of Roseflower Radio. Goodbye.
Adios.